All right, everyone, if everyone could have a seat, we'd like to get started. Well, you settle down so much better than the kids do when we say that. Welcome, everyone. I'm Cindy Rivera. I'm the department chair for the guidance office. I think you've seen me a million times now, so you're getting to the end of seeing me talk, which is probably good for you. So here we are, senior year, and the adventure continues here. First, welcome, everyone, and let me introduce everybody here. It's our full counseling department here today, which is nice. This is Susan Lency, Ann Vernon, Lindsay Ryle, Lori Keene, Jane Mitchell, Nick Willett, Linda McGann is back over there, and Susan Carroll, who's the coordinator for our College and Career Center. So today, we're here to talk about the next steps for this semester. This is now a fast process. You've gotten to this point, and now boom, we're going to hit the ground running. It's time to apply. It's time to get things done. And boom, you're probably done by December, January with all of this. So this is where, if you've done some good work along the way, you'll be okay. If you haven't done a whole lot of work, maybe your process, not yours, your child's process will continue into the spring a little bit further. So today, we're going to talk about all of those things. First of all, how many, this is the first time they're going through it? Oh boy, okay. But how many of you have more than one child? There you go. So as you know, all kids are different. There's no one pathway. There's no one way to do this. We have kids at every phase in this process and have their own timelines for everything. There's no one way to do it. Not everyone applies early. Not everyone has a decision by December. So it all gets done. We meet your children where they are, at the place that they are. If they've done nothing, we help them with that. If they've done everything, we have kids who have, been planning since kindergarten where they're going to school, had spreadsheets, in August for us, and have everything done, and they're waiting for us to help them. On the other end of the spectrum, we have kids who in January or February are thinking, maybe I do want to apply to college. Can we do that still? So it's good. It's fine. Whatever that is, we work it out. So the first part of this is to just breathe and allow your child to go at their own pace. It's got to be their process. They've got to be the ones who take charge of this and are in charge of it. The worst thing for us is in June, when we ask kids where they applied and what the decisions were, they don't know. They just know where they're going. They just weren't terribly involved with the whole process. And that's not where we want them to be in June of their senior year as an 18-year-old going off to college. So just keep that in mind, that this is much more their process than yours. So today, what we're going to do is talk to you about what we've been doing so far. We're going to, kids are everywhere from having a full list of schools to only where they're applying early and don't know the rest of their list. Essays, some are done, but not quite polished. Others, haven't quite even started those. We're going to go through all that we're doing with them to help them get along in this process. So first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've done with your kids in the senior English classes. We've been going into senior English classes the last few days. We'll continue this week, telling the kids all the things that they need to be thinking about and getting ready for in this process. We're here to help with questions and meeting with them. A lot of them have met up with us already. They're making appointments with us, so we'll talk to you about what we're doing with that. Collectively, there's a lot of experience here. We work very much as a team at this time of the year. We do everything from helping flesh out college lists. When we think that it's not balanced, we help each other with college lists. With the essays, we share essays. If one of my students shows me an essay, I might take it to another counselor who can look at it more objectively. We work with each other very close. We share each other's recommendations to help each other read each other's recs to make sure that we are doing what we need, that it's coming across the way we want it to. So this is very much a team effort here at this time of year. So we've been in the classes and told them kids all of this stuff, but what they've heard and retained is always the big question. So they do come back to us often, and that's fine. So you're our backup plan to know what we've been saying and to help your kids stay on top of things and working with them. Okay, so in the end, your kids will be fine. They will get somewhere. Last year, we poll our seniors at the end of every year. Last year, 94% said they were satisfied with the college process and how it turned out. 85% said they got into one of their top 3 choices. That's pretty good. So, out there, the rumor mill gets going that our kids got in nowhere and nothing, it was a terrible year. And that rumor happens every single year. It was a terrible year, no one got in anywhere. And every year, it balances out, and every year looks pretty much the same as the year before. So have confidence in that it will work out. And that's what you have to portray to your children. All right, so we're going to start today with Lindsay and Susan talking about what we've done in the classrooms. Then Sue Carroll will talk about the College and Career Center. Ann will talk about the role of the parents, and then we'll get to your questions.
Thanks, Sim. So as Cindy said, some students were emailing us over the summer, asking us to read things. Most of us don't answer a lot of email over the summer, so we were not doing that. But the truth is that the kickoff for the admissions season really began last Tuesday when we went into English classes. We meet with each senior English class and we talk about the details of the process. And if you've been through this before, and I'm sure even if you haven't, you've heard, there's a lot of legend around this about all of the details, and there are a lot of details. But we want to continuously remind your son or daughter and you that this is their process, that they're the ones in the driver's seat, but that, of course, we are always here to support them in any way we can. So the overview is what Cindy was talking about. We're going to share that with you. We're not going to give you every detail of what we spoke about with them in the English classes, but we're going to give you the overview. Because after all, we think that the common goal is that this all gets done on time, correct? Right? That's our common goal, that it all gets done on time. But time can be different. Over the years, we've developed this simplistic graphic organizer. It has the catchy acronym STARS. And you can see that this little man up here is juggling lots of things, because we know that's what your seniors are doing right now. They're juggling rigorous courses, they're juggling their extracurricular activities, Spirit Week, T-shirts galore, they're juggling cars that are written on. I don't know how you're ever getting all of that stuff off your car, but they are juggling all of those things. And on top of this, they have the admissions process. So we like to simplify it for them, and we like to simplify it for you with this acronym STARS. So the first S stands for senior appointments, okay? These are one-to-one appointments for the senior and the counselor. And as Cindy said before, it's tailored to wherever the student is at in the post-secondary process. For many of our students, that means planning for college. For some, it means planning for gap year. For some, it means planning for military or PG year. But the one-on-one senior meeting is to discuss where they're at. The essential things to remember as the student comes to the senior appointment is that we need their completed senior profile. So that's the pink sheet that was mailed home over the summer. That sheet is also available online if your student would like to type it or somehow it's been misplaced. This profile really is important to us because it provides the rich details that are important in our discussions with them. We can dig into their favorite extracurricular activity with them. It helps them to clarify, and it helps us as we write their letters of recommendation. We also place great value on your parent questionnaires. That's not mandatory. The senior profile is mandatory. Obviously, we're not going to say to you your parent questionnaire is mandatory, but we love getting your parent questionnaires because it can reveal an aspect of your child that we really haven't had a chance to see in our 3+ years with them. And we ask that there's a deadline on those senior profiles. I think it's this week. But we certainly ask that it be submitted to us prior to the appointment, or at the very least, they bring it with them on the day of the appointment. We do like to get them ahead. Also essential for the senior meeting is the updating of the college list in Naviance. And I think it bears clarifying here the difference between a couple of these vehicles that are used in the application process. So I always say to my students, in order for a college to consider you for admissions, they have to get information from 3 sources, I call them 3 cars, 3 electronic vehicles. And the kids' vehicle is the Common App, right? That's how they're going to tell the college all about them. They're going to do their essay in there. They're going to do their supplemental questions. If not the Common App, and Lindsay will touch on this in a minute, if not the Common App, then the school's own app. But they will have to get their information to the college via an application. Our vehicle is Naviance, which means that from here, the transcript, the teacher letters, our letter, the school profile go through Naviance. Those 2 vehicles have to connect, and we've showed the kids how to connect those vehicles, but it can be confusing because they'll say, I updated my list here, and it's not updated somewhere else. They need to go into Naviance and make sure their college list is updated. The 3rd vehicle we'll talk about later, that's the SCORES vehicle. So with them in the meeting, we're going to review the list of schools, making sure it's balanced with reaches, targets, and likely or favorable schools. We're going to talk about essays. We're going to talk about supplemental questions. We're going to talk about where they are with their test taking. And again, we will always meet them right where they are. So if they are just beginning, we will meet them there. If they are well along, we will meet them there. But this is only one of the times we're going to meet with them. This is the official meeting, and we encourage you to encourage them to make an appointment to see us soon, particularly if they have an early deadline, which seems every year almost everybody has an early deadline now. We like to have this meeting 3 to 4 weeks before their first deadline, but we will continue to meet with them as often as we need to. The fall is all about seniors coming in to ask whatever they need to ask of us. We tell them no question is a dumb question, and we're there for them. And now Lindsay's going to cover the transcripts and applications.
Thank you. Hello. So the T in STARS stands for transcripts, and these are the official documents from the high school that get sent to the colleges and universities to which each student applies. They include the courses that each student has taken, along with the grade received and credit earned. These are mostly sent electronically, but there are some schools that do request them via mail, but they all go out through Lisa Granite in our registrar's office. Most of your children, if not yet, will be seeing the form that they will need to fill out in order to request these transcripts. So on the form, it will ask the name of the college, the location, the branch, if that is relevant, if there's multiple branches of a school, as well as the application deadline. And we've asked students to give us 3 to 4 weeks notice to have those transcripts sent out so that Lisa in the registrar's office can assemble everything that does need to go to those schools. So around the time of the senior appointment, we're always there to help the students fill out the form. when they come in to request the transcripts, they can't leave with that form because it's very detailed. We want to make sure they're completing everything accurately and completely. So we're there to help them fill that form out. If they want to come in and request a transcript to be sent only to their early decision school or just their top 3 schools at the moment, they can do that and then come back later, fill out the form again, have more transcripts sent. So there's not a limit on the transcripts that can be sent out, but it's just important that they fill out that form. Yes? Is there a what? No, there's no fee to send transcripts. And on the transcripts, the first quarter grades for this year are not automatically included, but if the student does want that, that's something that can be put on there. Sorry. Oh, okay. And then the A is for applications, which whether your child is submitting an application through the Common App or a school's own website or online application or applying to one of the small handful of schools that actually still want applications in the mail, these are very, very detailed applications, and it's really important that your son or daughter takes a lot of time to go through it and ensure that everything is complete and that they've gone through and answered all the questions accurately, truthfully, and to completion. You can assist your child by helping remind them of deadlines. You can be another set of eyes to look at the application before it is submitted. Sometimes it can be helpful to print out the application just so you can look at it in a different way and go through, make sure everything is answered. Sometimes, depending on the college or the program to which a student applies, there might be additional writing requirements. So, as Cindy said, there's the personal essays that most students have already begun or have even completed by this point. But sometimes the applications will add additional writing supplements. So it's important that you don't miss those because they can pop up midway through the application, and it can be different for every school. So going through and making sure that all of the questions are answered and all of the writing prompts have been addressed is an important detail that your son or daughter will want to pay attention to before hitting submit. Another thing that we've encouraged students to do is try to submit their applications 1 to 2 weeks before the deadline. It's not uncommon for a website to crash or a storm to hit and everyone loses internet or, those unpredictable things that unfortunately do happen. We would hate to see a student miss a deadline because they waited until the last minute. So trying to get those out early in advance so that there's plenty of time should anything like that happen, we can get it taken care of and still get that application submitted before the deadline. And then if your child is applying early decision or early action, still keep an eye on those regular deadlines, the regular action deadlines, because they do approach pretty quickly. You don't want to just stay focused on the ED or EA applications. So definitely just having a comprehensive view of sort of what you want your next few weeks here to look like is really important. And at any time, if your child needs help or has a question on the application, we're all here to help. They can come in, bring their computer, we can sit down, look at their application together. We're happy to go over essays or look at the other writing prompts or different pieces of each application just to help make sure that everything is complete and accurate and ready before they hit submit. So I think that's Susan.
All right, so we've done STA, and the next, whoops, I went the wrong way. The next letter in the acronym is R for recommendations. As you probably remember from your meeting last spring, we encouraged the kids to go and ask 2 teachers for teacher letters of recommendation, which is what most colleges require. There are some colleges which allow more, allow only 1, but we will work individually with your student on that piece of the process. This is separate from the counselor rec. The counselor rec is required by almost every school. And in the English classes where we've been meeting with them, we've shown them how they add their teachers on Naviance so that their teachers will then get an email prompting them to upload their letter and let the teacher know what the deadline is. We encourage our students, we know it's probably still a little old-fashioned, but we encourage them to write a thank you note to teachers after this. Writing letters is wonderful, but it is time-consuming, and we really know how much it's appreciated by the kids, and so we ask them to reach out to their teachers. And if for some reason your son or daughter has not requested teacher recommendations at this point, we do encourage them to come to see their individual counselor pretty soon. We're late in the process for this. There's always time, but there's not a lot of time. So we ask if they have not, that they come to us and we'll help them sort through that individually. The recommendations serve different purposes, and the goal is to show the whole student. The data on the transcript and the lists of activities can be flat, and so the letters and your student's essay are ways for the data to come alive a little bit. So we all take a lot of time on the letters. We have told your students that if a teacher told them that they would write for them, that they will only write a positive letter, so nobody has to worry about that. But the teacher letters are talking about their growth in the classroom or their qualities as a learner, whereas ours as counselors are talking about their growth in the 3 years plus that we've had them with us. And finally, the final letter in the acronym is S for scores. And that is the third vehicle that must get information to the college. Many students have completed their standardized testing, but many students are taking tests through October. And the October tests are usually, I think almost always, available for early action and early decision. So students, and this can be their job, or this is one of the places where you can help them, will need to go on to the official site of the organization where they took the test, that is either ACT or SAT, and they will have to click Send Scores, and they will have those scores sent to the colleges that they are applying to. Now, many colleges in the last year plus have started to allow self-reporting on scores, but you need to check carefully with each of the schools to which your student is applying. They should check carefully with you about how they want their scores. We advise that they do this 3 to 4 weeks before their first deadline because colleges don't send scores individually, they batch them and send them. So you want to be sure that you give them enough time, all right? There's no worry about scores getting there and nothing else being there. Things don't have to arrive at the college at the same time. They sit in waiting until the application comes, and when the application comes, everything gets linked up. It is important, as I say, to check on the school's individual policy on scores. So that's STARS, senior appointment, transcript, applications, recommendations, and scores. And we hope that gives you a little bit of an organized way to think about it. That's what we've asked the kids to keep in mind as they go through the process. And now I want to introduce Sue Carroll, who's going to talk to you about college visits.
I was so happy to see so many first-time college applicant parents, because then you haven't seen my parlor trick. That's our list of college visits. Yeah, scrolls from the Old Testament. College visits are beginning this Friday, actually. Are you going to roll for me? Thank you. I need an assistant. The college visits are a half hour long, and they are scheduled on the half hour, the goal being that your children would never miss an entire class. The visits are posted on Naviance. They're posted on the New Canaan High School website on the school counselor page on the left-hand side. It will say college visits, and it will give you the whole calendar. And also the old-fashioned way on the bulletin board outside the school counseling office. If your child has a particular college on their college I'm thinking about list, they have been getting, as I make the appointments, an email saying, Colgate is visiting Tuesday the 17th at 11:30 a.m.
Let me hit your slide. Where is it?
That's my slide.
She doesn't need it.
Anyhow, so if they, the important thing, and you're going to hear this through the entire year, especially as senior internship program approaches, it's important that your seniors check their emails because they are getting these emails from Naviance, and they can then go on to back onto Naviance, and they can RSVP to the visit. The reason why that's important is because my office holds about 25 people. And also, it's important to actually pay attention to what classes you would be missing to attend a visit, and to stay on top of the people that you perhaps want to speak to at these visits. So we ask the kids to RSVP to the visits. They have to ask their teacher for permission to attend. And if for some reason, for example, there's a physics test and no, you can't go to the visit, then we do have these wonderful handy-dandy forms in my office that are actually a regret form that that we will give to the college rep so that the college rep will know that the child intended to be there but could not be because of a prior commitment. And I know the colleges love this form. But I always say to the kids who come in after the visit and after the rep has left, you know, here's my regret form. And I say to them, sweetie, Elvis has left the stadium. And then they don't know who Elvis is. And I'm completely feeling my ancient bones. Anyhow, so yeah, they have to come in for the regret form before the visit begins. And your kids have been told all of this also in their senior meetings. That the counselors have been doing and are ongoing. Also, I'm happy to offer mock interviews, one-on-one mock interviews, if your children are going to interview in the next couple of weeks. Things are getting more serious now, and if they would like a little guidance to present their best selves at the interview, we're happy to do that for them and with them. They just need to swing by my office, and we'll figure out a time when we're both free. Also, I will say again that we have a really active Facebook account, College and Career Center, New Canaan High School, NCHS College and Career Center, and a pretty good Twitter feed also. And I'm not suggesting that you ever be a Twitter person, but open an account and follow, the school and the College and Career Center, because you'll get very quick information about the college landscape, about scholarship information. Much of this information will be followed up on a monthly basis in the school counseling update that I hope you all read, that's posted on the website. But this is a very quick reaction to what's going on and information that could be helpful to you during this process. This is a really exciting time in your kids' lives, and to talk about your role in helping them manage the nerves and the process is Ann Vernon. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning. Last spring, one of my seniors came in to let me know that he had gotten into a couple of colleges and he was denied at a couple of colleges. And he said to me, Miss Vernon, I have really grown through this process. That statement to me was like a reflection of successfully completing the steps for the most important decision of this kid's life at that time.
So
So far. And as we've all said, there are a lot of moving pieces in the lives of high school seniors. And being organized is important to keep stress levels in check. As a parent, as we've said, you can help your child organize this task if they need your help. Sorry about that. But there's a fine line between helping and helicoptering that we need to manage. You want your senior to own this process, but you don't want him to be overwhelmed either. Many students are adept at organizing, and they'll be ready to embrace the whole process. Other kids may just need help with maybe entering data into a spreadsheet, creating a timetable, and still others, because of athletic commitments or work, may need help with more of the administrative tasks like sending in scores, arranging college visits, or even setting up a space in your home where he can keep all of the college application materials in one place. What you shouldn't be doing is filling out the application or helping him too much with the essay. At its best, the essay is a personal statement showing the student's personality, showing his voice, and the authentic work of the applicant himself turns out to be much more interesting to admissions. And admissions can usually tell if too many adult hands influence the essay. Here's an example from my own life. Back in 2004, before I became a high school counselor, my eldest son said to me, "Mom, I don't want you to look at my essay until I'm ready to send it in." I said, "Fine, I'm fine with that." When he was finished, he gave it to me to read, and I immediately had a concern. The essay was about a time when he made a faux pas in a social situation with a student from another country. My son wrote in his essay that he was so mad at himself for the faux pas that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. I said to him, "Oh, honey, you don't want them to think you would bang your head against the wall." He said, "Thanks, Mom, but this is my essay." Luckily, he didn't change it, and I know that admissions knew that this was the writing of a 17-year-old. Here's some other pieces of advice. Most importantly, you want to make sure your senior's college list is realistic and includes a balance of reach, target, and likely schools. The best way to determine the likelihood of admission for that is using the Naviance scattergrams. These show the exact data from New Canaan High School students for the past 3 years for students who were admitted, denied, deferred, or waitlisted based on the GPA and the scores. So usually national data is not as accurate as our own data from Naviance, especially with regard to the GPA, because all high schools are different. We have a 100 scale GPA, other schools have different scales. So using national data is not as useful as using the scattergrams. But with the data from the scattergrams, try to dispel any magical thinking or a love affair with a dream school. Make sure your senior's list is one that full of colleges that he wants to attend. That's key. And consistently support the merits of each college on the list over just one or two. Setting boundaries on cost, financial aid, distance from home, that's all important to do while the list is being developed. So the other thing if in your gut you think your child may not be ready for college, please be assured that admissions looks very favorably on students who take a gap year. And your child's counselor would be happy to discuss that in more detail. And finally, to avoid having college as the unending daily topic of conversation in your home, we recommend for families just to pick 1 or 2 times a week to sit down, review what's been done, look at what needs to be done for the next week, and then set goals and a to-do list week by week. And then step back and just trust that your child is getting it done.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. And if the following week he hasn't gotten it done, then we can address those problems. If you find that your senior is having trouble completing any piece of the application, if he is procrastinating, please remember that we are here to help. As Cindy mentioned, the school counselors work as a team, along with Sue Carroll in the College and Career Center, and Lisa Granite, our registrar, and our secretaries that will help your child make an appointment or drop in to see their counselor. So we are, as we said before, the counselors actually have had experience with several thousand seniors in the college process. So we are skilled at guiding students to the best possible outcome. Thank you. Now we'll entertain questions.
Thanks, Ann. I don't know what you did here, but we're messed up now. What did you do? Yeah, but, no, it's got to go to from where we were before.
Go to,
Slideshow.
yeah.
This tech here. There we go.
And then I think it's.
Okay. I just wanted to add in a couple of dates to remember before we take some questions. Thanks, Lindsay. Monday, September 23rd is an evening. We had a couple of these representatives before in the spring. For those looking to apply to schools in England, they will help with that whole process of what to do and how to manage all of that. So that's a really good night. Students and parents are welcome to attend that. And it's open for all grades, but if you're in the middle of this process, they will help you with some of those deadlines. And then financial aid night, Thursday, October 10th at 7 p.m. That, too, will be a very good evening for understanding the whole financial aid landscape and what to expect and how to manage some of those expectations. That we have in a gentleman who did such an excellent job last year. It was very well attended, and he's coming back again this year. So it'll be something that I think is beneficial to everybody. Okay, questions? So the question was if you had an outside recommendation for something, job, minister, anything. So anyone who is not an employee of the high school, you will have to request that. We've told the kids through the Common App under other recommenders, there's a spot there for inviting someone from the outside to upload a transcript there, and it'll go through that. So, okay. Questions?
When the schools offer their own application or the Common App, do they have a preference for either?
No. Yeah, when there's more than one application, your own application or Common App, choose which one you want. They don't have a preference. They really don't. The Common App is so common at this point, they're so used to looking at it as well as their own application. The child could choose which they want to do. Sometimes you're going to get an email where they're asking you to do it as a priority option for scholarships and things like that, or a free application to use their own, and of course you would use it then at that time. Right here.
For the early action situations, we noticed that there's a trend now that some of them become more restrictive is that information available on the website? Because my daughter says to me occasionally, I need to talk to my counselor because I think this university has a more restrictive early action. How do we?
Does someone want to take that? Go ahead, Jane. So repeat the question, Jane, first of all. And-
Okay,
And all
so
of you
there
put your
seems to be a-
microphones on.
There seems to be a trend for some of the schools that take an early action to become restrictive early action, which means that they can't apply to.
The question was around restrictive early action
Yes.
and where to find that information.
Yep. My recommendation is always to go to the high school to the college website. That is the most up-to-date information. I will generally say to students, usually in the senior appointment, as long as I can remember, just before you submit the application, go back to the college's website, double check that you're providing all the information and double check the plan that you are applying under. Colleges do change their admission plans. So unfortunately, it changes from year to year. But my honest opinion is go to their website.
Restrictive early action means you can only apply early to, and every policy is different. So even within what it means you can apply my school early action, but you can't apply early decision to someone else. Or you can apply early action to me, but not to someone else. So you have to read what that says under
And before this
the
becomes a
description.
thing, it's very few schools.
Yes.
It's
Very,
very
very
few.
restricted.
You're talking about a paucity
It's like
of
5
top-tier
schools,
schools.
Yeah, very, very few schools. They make it very obvious. if
And you
that's
can ask
true.
the counselor.
Over there in the back, and then
How can you tell the status of your recommendation if it's been submitted or your transcripts have been sent?
So Naviance will, so I'm sorry. The question was, how can a student tell if the status of their teacher letter being,
or personal,
or
the
personal
college letters or
letter being
applications.
submitted? That was the question. Naviance keeps track, and it will show a student when a teacher letter has been submitted. We caution students, they will request a letter now and expect that it will be done soon because they want to get their application in soon. Teachers will abide by the deadlines of the college. So if the deadline is 11/1 or 11/15, the letters will be submitted by then, but the student can see on their Naviance when something's been submitted. They are just now requesting the teachers through Naviance. That is not something they've done up to this point. So, yes, they can, I mean, our teachers are very good about submitting by deadline. The truth is that we always say to the kids, what the college really wants by the deadline is your application. Anything else, if it's a day later, they're not usually troubled by that. But it's their application. The portals close usually for them after the deadline.
Right here?
So you mentioned for additional recommendations from the outside of audience. What about a teacher recommendation from the school that was attended before you came? Is that outside of audience or is that?
Easily to answer, same thing, under other recommenders, because that person would not be an employee of NCHS. So that, the only people in there are the employees of NCHS, so. You here?
Rolling admissions in terms of getting the teacher recommendation earlier.
Again, I think it goes back to, the important piece is the application being in as soon as possible. The student can also communicate with the teacher that they're intending to get an application out by a certain time, and could they work with that deadline. But it does not appear in Naviance if it's rolling admission. So it's important for the student to personally have that conversation with the teacher. Again, giving that teacher 3 to 4 weeks prior to when they want to get the application out. Okay, back here.
You said that you can go to guidance for health issues and questions. Should the student look for their guidance counselor first, or are there a pool of people that are available to help them?
The question was, do you go to your own child's counselor for questions? Yes, you go to your own child's counselor for questions. If we want to consult. Right. Yeah. So if they don't know what they're they have a question, yeah, go to their own counselor first. But if it's a quick question, a lot of us know the answer and can answer it pretty quickly. So if your own child's counselor isn't available at that minute, Mrs. Granite is amazing, Mrs. Carroll is amazing, Miss Posha even knows a lot of things just because she's been here for 100 years that we know how to, okay, 15, I'll give her a break.
Let's not tell her that,
Don't tell her I said that.
It's recorded.
But they do know because we've all been through it together so many times. And so everybody can be very helpful in this process. And we're glad to help anybody as it goes through. Question?
Considerations for early action or early decision, like when is it a good idea, when is it not?
Okay, there's a lot to say about that. Does anyone want to? I can go if you want me to. Oh, no one's looking at me. Okay. So what are the considerations between early decision, early action? When should you do it? When shouldn't you do it? That's a big conversation actually to have with your child's counselor. I will look at a child's full transcript, and if they had sort of a bumpy ride in junior year or sort of declining performance, we want to see and the schools will want to see first semester grades to see that they've bounced back. In the same way, if a child is taking on many APs this year or APs for the first time this year, often colleges want to see how you're doing in those classes if it's been a big jump from what you've been normally taking. So they may want to see some grades before they make any decisions. So if there's some change from last year to this year, that's always, to me, a round of saying they may not go in that early round. If your child is not ready to make a commitment for an early decision school, they don't have a first choice, or they're not feeling, oh, I really want this school, that it's a hard choice for them to make to go ED somewhere just because they think they can get in, because then oftentimes there's disappointment around that when later on they had already gotten in, and that's it. That's the end of their journey. They withdraw all their other applications. So, there are times when students feel a little disappointment about that. So you want to make that decision for early decision carefully, because you're making a commitment that you don't walk away from. And so that's something you take very seriously. Early action rounds don't mean as much. You'll get the decision early, but there's not a great priority in how they will look at you if you're applying early action. You're just getting your application in early, and you're getting to see where you stand at some of your favorite schools on those things. So again, there's a lot to talk about in making that decision, and it's never a blanket answer, so it's really hard for me to make that. Does anyone want to add to that at all?
I also want to say that I think all of us as counselors spend a lot of time talking when a student comes in and says, I want to go ED somewhere, but I don't know where I'm going. So, there's a lot of soul searching in this, and I think that there's a lot of consideration on the parents' part too. There's financial consideration, so whatever financial aid package they give you for ED is what you accept. There's nothing to compare it to. So you have to think about that end too. So I think as counselors, we spend a great deal of time making sure that they feel comfortable, everybody feels comfortable with that ED. I also want to say, I think with early action, we're seeing a lot of waitlisting. The early action is for the advantage of the schools. They get to see their whole applicant pool. They get everybody to apply early. And so they're really taking the cream of the crop, the top, for early action, and then waitlisting a lot of those students. So you might see a lot of waitlisting for early action. So we just want to prepare everyone for. We talk to our kids about this all the time.
Yeah. Way in the back.
Related questions. One is, do you have any tools, or are there any online tools to help kids do pros and cons when deciding whether or not to do ED, in terms of comparing schools and comparing what they may like? And then my second question is, what's the difference between ED1 and ED2, and do the schools see a difference, or is it the same pool of applicants that they're looking at, just different time periods?
Okay, so the first question was about resources around deciding ED, around that. I don't know of any. I think we're the best resource here around that to help them weigh the pros and cons, but I'm sure there's plenty, everybody writes about college admissions, so there are multiple resources out there, and I think each of them address that kind of an issue in their own way. So I wouldn't know beyond that. The other question, the difference between ED1 and ED2 and one advantage over another. Every college, again, is a little bit different. I have found that oftentimes they have an ED1 pool. The colleges may feel that, that's where they get the cream of the crop. They take those kids, and then many students who don't get into their ED1 might say, well, I'll ED2 to this other school, which was just as much a favorite for me. That they were my top 2 schools, so I didn't get into that first round. I'll try for the second round. Again, you're cautioned that if you ED2 somewhere, that ED1 school is now off the table for you. So you may have been deferred admission to regular pool for them to look at you again, but if you're ED2ing somewhere else, then you are taking all your other schools off the table in that sense as well. So every college has different tacks about that. Any more about that you want to say? Okay, again, it's individual by school.
When are first quarter grades? What's the date? How does that work if you are doing ED?
First quarter grades come out around the beginning of November. Colleges will wait for them for November 1st deadlines. They'll take them into consideration. You have to understand when colleges get all the applications on November 1st, they're not making any decisions just yet. They're collecting information. So and oftentimes they want to see first quarter grades before they make that decision for a December 15th decision. So,
yeah, it's worth noting too, the student has to come in and tell Mrs. Granite that they want first quarter grades sent. We don't send those automatically. So the student has to come in and request that those be sent. And we will give them lots of notice about when they have to come in and fill out a list for her so that she knows to send them when they are finalized for the first quarter.
And we ask kids not to do it till they actually know what those grades are.
Right.
So they may be we send them out within a few days, but you just never know if they might want to hold that back just a little bit. So again, another conversation that we have at the time. So around that first week in November is when we're sending everything out.
Do the students need to request the senior appointments with the counselors, or is that based?
The question was, do the students need to request the senior appointments? Yes, they do. And they have come in, they go to the class, they hear the class, we go to guidance and make your appointment if you have an early deadline. If you have a regular deadline or a December deadline, they don't need to rush to get there. But otherwise, we are meeting with all of our seniors throughout September and into mid-October for November 1st and November 15th deadlines. And so we will have met with most all of them by then at this point. So I do have to say, for the record, 75% went early last year. Not the whole class. There are people who don't go. So over here. Early action. Yeah, the question was, if an early action, you submit and you get a no, you get a deny, do you go into the regular pool? You do not. That's the end of that one. So then you move on to other applications. If you get deferred, that's when you're put into the regular pool. They will tell you,
don't have to
the letter
reapply.
will come to say that you've been deferred to regular admission or waitlisted or whatever suggestions are made.
And if that happens, do you have any feeling on if it looks favorably, unfavorably, neither?
If they've been deferred?
Yes.
So the question is, if you've been deferred, how does that appear in terms of the colleges? Generally speaking, colleges will say that a deferral means, yes, you are still a strong candidate for us, but we want to look at the pool of the whole regular decision before making a final decision. You're not the top, or deferral may mean we want to see some grades. And semester grades. We want to see that how you've where you are in this process, that you're continuing to do better or well.
Not surprisingly, as the early application rate has gone up, and it's not just us, it's nationally, we have seen way more deferrals because the pools are so big. It used to be a smaller group of students, but now they're big pools, so we're seeing, as Linda said, a lot more deferrals and then wait lists later because of the numbers.
Just to follow up with my question,
counselor, one of you all talk to the college to find out this information?
So the question was if ED or EA, if you were deferred. If it's a top choice school for a child and you want to know what's happening, is there something, I'm glad to make a call and just to see what was the issue that caused that. I'm not going to do it for 9 schools on a child's list because that's a lot of phone calls for all of our students. But yes, certainly, an ED school will make a phone call to see, is there something in particular that we should know about that we might want to address with the child. Oftentimes, there's no good answer. And so it's such a frustrating process because it's so subjective. We think it's going to be scientific and there's going to be an exact reason. Oftentimes, there's not. It could be you just one of, didn't make it that time. So, but then there is time for the remainder of the year for the child to be in contact with the school to update them with grades or new accomplishments or awards that they've gotten to promote their application in some way. So there's time to be had for doing all of that. Oh, thought I was getting away. The question is about the SAT and the ACT. Do you send both? It's a big depends on that one. If one set of scores is stronger than the other, of course, you would only send that set of scores. If a college is requesting all scores, you send all scores. If a college, if they're super scoring, which means they take from each sitting your best scores from each sitting, you may send a number of scores. So again, college specific. If they're similar, you really have to break it down. Like on the ACT, I tend to look to see if there's a science score that's strong and showing evidence of something that's not shown on the SAT. Maybe we'd send both scores. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Very good.